said that the violent heart cannot be tamed. Where is the
That's Brave New World by Dan Reed. He was performing last night for the Progressive Democrats of America at the Central Presbyterian Church here in Denver. On this first day of the Democratic National Convention, we broadcast to you Breaking with Convention, War, Peace, and the Presidency. We're broadcasting on over 700 stations on Pacifica and NPR and low-power FM and college and community radio stations, on public access TV and PBS TV stations and both TV satellite networks, Dish Network Channel 9415, Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, and on DirecTV Channel 375. And we're video and audio podcasting at democracynow.org. Our headlines also available in Spanish for any radio station to take in audio form and in transcript form on our website at democracynow.org. We are broadcasting this week from the studios of Free Speech TV in the same building as PBS station KBDI here in Denver, which also broadcasts Democracy Now! As we talk about the elections and continue to break with convention, we now turn to a question at the core of the American political process. Just who can become president of this country? And just how deep is the American love for democracy? Most of us have been brought up on the idea any deserving U.S. citizen can technically reach the White House one day. We've also been reared on the belief that Americans are duty-bound in maintaining the democratic values of our country. But award-winning journalist, author, publisher, and president of Harper's Magazine, John MacArthur, begs to differ. His latest book, which comes out next month, is called You Can't Be President: The Outrageous Barriers to Democracy in America. MacArthur says the popular notion any American can become president only reinforces the, quote, destructive national delusion that widespread, up from the ground, truly popular democracy, both political and economic, really exists in America. To assume that, he says, is equal to believing Santa Claus exists. John MacArthur, who's called actually Rick MacArthur, joins us now from our Firehouse studio in New York. This is his first interview about his forthcoming book, You Can't Be President. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Rick MacArthur. Why don't you start off by explaining why can't anyone in this country who's an American citizen be president? We seem to be having a microphone problem. Again, we're going to be going to Rick MacArthur. His book is You Can't Be President: The Outrageous Barriers to Democracy in America. And by the way, Democracy Now! Is expanding its coverage to 2 hours for this 2 weeks. This week in Denver, next week in St. Paul. If your station is not broadcasting the full 2 hours, you can go to our website at democracynow.org. There you will see the video. You can listen to the audio, and the full transcripts will be available for both hours. In fact, we are looking for transcribers helping us with this mammoth project, and you can just email us at transcribe@democracynow.org if you're interested. But we're going to turn right now back to Rick MacArthur with the central question: why can't anyone become president in the United States? Rick MacArthur.
Well, one reason you can't be president is because not everyone can get slated by the Cook County Democratic machine the way Barack Obama was on several occasions when he was an Illinois politician. One of the paradoxes about Barack Obama and the notion that he represents the American ideal that anyone can become president is that he is sponsored by the political organization that epitomizes one-party rule in this country, the Cook County Democratic machine run by Richard Daley, which previously was run by his father. I mean, this is a dynasty, a political dynasty of 50 years, 60 years standing that doesn't allow people to run just because they feel like it or because they think they have a bright, fresh new idea. So the idea that Barack Obama represents this ideal or epitomizes this ideal is preposterous. I am more interested now than ever in party politics and the barriers that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party put up to prevent independence, prevent insurgents, prevent people with differing points of view from entering the political process. So putting aside all the obvious problems in the electoral system, money, the fact that you can't run without $300 million in the case of Obama, maybe $10, $15, $20 million if you want to run for Senate in South Dakota, the electoral college system, the fact we don't have direct popular vote for president. People have to look at the origins of most of these candidates. So when we talk about Barack Obama, we have to talk about his political origins in Illinois, and they are very interesting. One of the chapters that I am proudest of in my book is the one about the big box minimum wage fight in Chicago. When the argument began about whether to let Walmart come into Chicago, Mayor Daley wanted very badly to let Walmart come in. Some aldermen in Chicago didn't want Walmart to come in, and there was a tremendous fight. Finally, they decided to allow one Walmart into the black ghetto on the west side of Chicago. And a few aldermen, actually a majority of aldermen, finally came around to the notion that, well, if we're going to let Walmart in, we should at least force them to pay a decent wage, a minimum wage above the ordinary minimum wage, because Chicago, like every other industrial city or former industrial city in the country, is suffering from deindustrialization. People are desperate for work. Barack Obama never took a position on the big box minimum wage bill because that's not something that would have pleased his political sponsor, who is Mayor Daley. So this is the sort of thing that I focus on in the book.
Rick MacArthur, you talk a lot about the fundraising and the historic precedent for the Obama fundraising machine. You go back further than Howard Dean and John McCain. Explain how it works.
Well, the fundraising machine goes back. I mean, when they banned so-called soft money, the whole when they banned the direct contributions of above a certain amount after the Watergate reforms of the 70s, the two parties had to figure out new ways to raise money. But what they've done by bundling and political action committees and so on and so forth and going to big business is to arrange a system where it's like something that it's a term they use in business school. They talk about barriers to entry. In other words, a company sets up, if you want to go into competition against the dominant company in your sector, in your market, there are barriers to entry, and you have to analyze the barriers to entry. The barriers to entry to politics in the United States are, the principal one is that you cannot raise money on the level of an incumbent congressman or an incumbent politician. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party raise so much money now that you or I or somebody off the street who's serious about politics simply cannot enter the political process anymore. Now, in the Democratic Party, this wasn't as stark until the 90s, when Bill Clinton really pioneered corporate fundraising on a level with the Republicans. He did this by, of course, supporting NAFTA and free trade agreements that made the big American corporations happy, international financiers, commercial banks, investment banks, and so on. And what Barack Obama has done is to copy the Clintons. Another thing that astonishes me is that no one seems to have read his book, The Audacity of Hope. It's all over his book that he favors free trade, he favors, he's very friendly with the investment bank community, with the hedge funds, with the corporate lawyers, and so on and so forth. And these are the people, despite the fact that he has raised a great number of small contributions from individuals with not much money, his campaign is dominated by the corporate and the financial sectors. He does this by saying to people, look, you have nothing to fear from me. I'm essentially sympathetic to your points of view. And he says so in his book. The Audacity of Hope is essentially an advertisement for his availability, for his non-threatening position vis-a-vis the financial community. He says in the book at one point, he's talking to Robert Rubin, his new friend and Clinton's former Treasury Secretary, and he says, well, you know, Bob Rubin, he's a great guy, and it's hard to argue with his fundamental thesis, which is that globalization is inevitable. Now, this is one of the great cliches of modern times to say that globalization is inevitable. But in any event, it announces to the investment bankers and the corporate lawyers and so on and the lobbyists, you have nothing to fear from me. Contribute to my campaign. I'll be just as good on free trade as Hillary Clinton.
The names of the largest contributors to the Obama campaign, the corporations that are most funding him.
Well, you're looking at Lehman Brothers and Citigroup, which is Bob Rubin's, where Bob Rubin works. Goldman Sachs is his #1 banking contributor. If you put all the bundlers together, National Amusements, I think it's called, which is the holding company for Viacom, is in his top 10. When I looked at it, the first thing I noticed about Obama's winds of change, his breath of fresh air, was that of the top 20 corporate